I've lined up some blue dial watches for some geek observations, specifically dive watches with matching blue bezel inserts, a colorway that's been quietly desirable for decades, popularized by sought-after brands and models. It's a palette that feels right at home by the sea. I have the Casio MDV106, also known as the Duro. This one is a Pagani watch, reference PD1667, and this is an Addiesdive AD2068 that's new in, so I'll do a quick mini review of this watch. It had my antennae on high alert when I noticed its score of 4.9 out of 5 from hundreds of customer reviews, so I bought one. I paid for all of the watches actually, and I'll put affiliate links in the description to where you can also buy them. If you use a link to buy something, I can earn a small fee at no extra cost to you. So each dial has a unique manufacture method and finish that you probably don't think about, and picking the right one might matter to you next time you buy a watch. Starting in random order, the Pagani first. The dial looks plain in retailers' photographs, but actually has a textured stipple effect. There's a couple of ways to do this, but I think it's stamped. The brass dial is pressed into a patterned die, forming these tiny raised points of irregular grain or stipple. Then they paint it, and there's a couple of benefits of a textured dial other than just aesthetics. It diffuses light to give the dial a rich depth, but more importantly reduces glare, which must be working because I normally whine like a baby if the sapphire watch crystal is too reflective. And this doesn't have any anti-reflective coating, but I've not complained once about reflection, so the dial must be helping. A second benefit is that the dial text will be more crisp on a textured dial because it normally has to be pad printed rather than the usual screen print method used on flat surfaces. With pad printing, ink is transferred from an etched plate onto a soft silicone pad, which then presses it onto the dial. The pad can conform better to a textured surface. It will bond the ink uniformly, reducing risk of flaking or cracking. And the main benefit of pad printing is that you get very precise text with sharper edges than screen print, regardless of whether the dial is flat or textured. Tying this back to my theme of the blue and blue colorway, the dial is paired with a wonderfully muted blue sloped ceramic bezel insert. Because of the slope, reflections only appear on a small section at a time, unlike a flat bezel where glare can wash out the whole surface. This pairs nicely with the anti-glare textured dial, giving the whole watch an understated look that's gentle on the eyes. The Casio MDV-106B-2AV, that's the blue dial one, and it's my favourite from my 5-strung Casio Duro collection. It features a blue dial with sunburst finish, adding depth and visual interest. Lines radiate from the centre that catch light differently as you rotate the watch, giving a dynamic shifting effect. This dial lacks additional textured or embossing and feels flat to touch. The lines you see are instead created by micro brushing or machining the brass surface with fine lines that reflect light differently. It's devastatingly effective on this Casio watch. And I love how the colour is a very dark blue, like wet pen ink. As for practical benefits, it's the sunburst effect that adds perceived depth that makes the indices and hands really pop. But it's the fun factor that truly overwhelms, making the watch more engaging to wear. 2 nerd facts. Some say the indices are punched from the rear, but we can see that they're applied indices. And while Casio uses 2784 as the module reference, few know that it's actually a Miyota 2115 produced by Citizen, which is good. The marlin-adorned timepiece has become a collector's favourite and a pop culture icon. See the description for my full review of this watch and the Pagani. Moving on to the Addiesdive, well, no fancy processes on the dial, just a flat, wonderfully muted, understated blue. And this plain dial benefits from being easier to colour match to the bezel insert, which has that desirable faded appearance. The retailer's listing says it's ceramic. If so, they made a fantastic job of giving it a vintage steel look. The watch has a quiet beauty to it, unbothered, unforced. For me, it edges the other 2 watches on appearance. Time for a more complete look at this Addiesdive because I've not previously reviewed this one. And why are buyers rating it 4.9? Rewinding a little, I captured some unboxing which I don't normally bother with because there's nothing fancy about the plastic tubs they come in, but this is new. No more wrestling with clear protective film. They now have these handy arrows and a one-way pull system that make it easy to remove. Top points. And damn it, straight away I spot a massive problem. Like many reviewers, I like to make my video and then sell the watch at a small loss, but I'm stuck with this one because it's astonishingly pretty. Luckily, it was the best value watch I've picked up this year. It has a stainless steel case and bracelet, and the watch has some very desirable dimensions and an attractive slim side profile. The diameter measures 39mm. That's a real sweet spot, with few divers coming in under 40, and any dive watch under 38 tends to look a bit feminine to me. I find this one fits easily under long-sleeved shirts because of its very slim 12mm case thickness. The sides have a high polish, and the 6mm diameter crown is adorned with the brand's logo, as is the screw-down case back. The crown is screw-in, as might be expected for a watch with a 200-meter water rating, as indicated by the dial text. The indices and bezel markers have a warm tone, cream-tinted vintage look. And surprisingly, they glow blue. It has BGW9 superluminous lume. I like it. The crystal is a low dome mineral type with blue anti-reflective coating, and it really completes the vintage aesthetic. You'll be shocked at how much it cost. Remember, this is a 200-meter dive watch and a stainless steel bracelet with solid links and end links, depending on the usual price fluctuation and or discounts on AliExpress and at the time of making the video. They're typically under $45 US, and that value explains the high score customer ratings. And it uses the Miyota 2115 movement. Sound familiar? Yes, it's the same movement I showed you that the Casio uses, and it's a pleasure to operate. The crown operation has a nice positive feel, making it accurate to set the position of the hands, and I can't hear it tick unless I press it directly against my ear. The fold-over safety clasp has good tolerances on my watch. That's always better than a cheap aftermarket milled clasp that can sometimes be a bit wonky. The only negative I can find is that the bezel is a 96-click bidirectional, so it lacks the safety of a unidirectional design that most dive watches would employ. If you made it this far and enjoyed, please like the video, and if you're new here, please consider joining my subscribers. You might like my next upload. Thanks.